Hello, dear friends. Welcome to another episode of GP Round the Table with Manuel Pesino from Spain. Hi, Manuel. Buenos dias.
Hi from Madrid. Buenos dias to all.
Giovanni Zamagni from Italy. Hi, Joe. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao a tutti.
Matt Oxley from England. Hi, Matt.
Ciao a tutti. Hello.
Hello, ciao. And please welcome our guest. Today's guest, we are very proud to have the most winning rider and multiple record holder in the World Superbike Championship, Jonathan REA. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us.
Ciao. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much for being with us. How are you, Jonathan? First of all, how did you spend this time, this lockdown, very long lockdown, a very strange situation for everybody? How did you spend your time?
It's a long time, so many different circumstances. In the UK, we were a little bit in delay with the lockdown compared to the rest of Europe. So I stayed at home. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. The first, say, 5-6 weeks, I really enjoyed being home. I did lots of stuff around the garden, stuff I never get the chance to do. Inside the house, my wife was like twisting every day to do something that we had to get done. And then I got sick. I'm okay, not depressed, but I had like a low point for 2-3 weeks where I felt like, wow, what's going on? All the news in the UK was like a disaster. Every time you switch on the TV or open the newspaper, the journalists were killing the prime minister. There wasn't a lot of good news. There wasn't a Superbike calendar, but as soon as the proposed calendar came out to start in Jerez, I felt really good again. There was a reason to train, and but I kind of enjoyed it in a weird way. I got to spend a lot of time with the kids because they were off school. Too much time because that's also very difficult. So I'm enjoying being back at the track now. I'm actually right outside Montmello circuit because we test there tomorrow. So it's very it's cool to be back at the track.
Okay, great. Shall we start with Matt? Matt, are you going to start, or you have any problem with your phone?
No, it's okay. I'm just throwing my other phone out of the room. Jonathan, I know that you were kind of, in your heart of hearts, you're a motocross rider, aren't you, really?
Yeah. Like
Andrea Dovizioso. And I just wondered what you've been doing, and I know you like to train a lot on dirt bikes, but it's that sort of tricky thing. You want to dirt bikes are fantastic for training on, but you also want to minimize the risk, I guess. So could you kind of run us through your sort of philosophy for motocross training, how you try to get the most out of it without risking getting hurt?
It's tough, especially coming from a motocross background, because you've got, I feel the biggest benefit, there's a lot of road racers that are training in motocross, but they didn't grow up in motocross. So that's probably more dangerous. I mean, for what Andrea did was very unlucky because he has good skills like a lot of riders on motocross bike. And generally, if the bike's moving in a strange way or hits a bump, you have the experience from 5 years old to correct that and stuff. So honestly, during I have a couple of private facilities at home. I could ride during lockdown, and I was riding a lot. So it's probably one of my most, I wouldn't call training because I enjoy it. It's just fun. Because you can go to the gym and be strong and work on, explosive power or muscular endurance, or you can go on the bicycle and work on, long endurance rides or efforts, whatever. But you arrive at the track and your brain's going from being, doing a bench press or riding at 40-50 kilometers on a bicycle to trying to compute braking markers, apexes at like 300 k's an hour. Now motocross, every single lap, the track's changing and you're riding, 50, 60, 70 k's per hour and the track's changing. So everything's coming at you so fast. The lines and the jumps, the ruts and the corners, having to adjust your brain if you miss the inside corner, how to get the best line. So physically it's good training, but what I get from motocross is the mental aspect, because it's your brain's just constantly working, and it's so hard to compute that. I've been doing I got a bit obsessed with that online cycling during lockdown on Zwift, and it was just monotonous. You're sitting on a bicycle for 2-3 hours, staring at a computer screen, and I enjoy cycling, but it's hard, because it's not stimulating your brain. It's good for your physique, but motocross is for me the best preparation. But it's every team manager's worst nightmare. Obviously, my contract's confidential, but I can tell you that there's a clause in there that prohibits me from doing jumps, like getting airborne. But I mean, my team understand that, and it's part of what I've done. And it doesn't take you too long to scroll through my Instagram to see my bike like 20 feet in the air. You know what I mean? So it's a hard balance. I mean, can you prepare better without doing motocross? I don't know. I always feel at the start of every season, I do a motocross camp, and I'm sure it's my team manager Game's worst nightmare. 2 seasons ago, I was on the operating theatre a week before Phillip Island because I completely opened up this finger. But hey, it's kind of what gets my brain going, and in a sport where the mental side is far outweighs the physical side. For me, if I feel like it makes me good, then why not? It's a hard, it's a hard one. I can imagine if I was a team manager and saying, some of the guys I race with as well, that they're so fast in motocross, like road race guys, and you're thinking, wow, if he crashes at this speed, it's going to be a disaster. But I think we're in the unfortunate place in our sport where it's too expensive to go testing every day. It's not viable. If you played tennis or you played football, you'd be on the pitch or the court every day. And I feel like motocross is the balance. I mean, it's kind of fashion now with all these MotoGP guys having a super stock bike and riding. But for me, that was even worse because you're training yourself on a bike that's very similar, but so different. So you get all these bad habits. And I did it I got sucked into buying a super stock bike, and I kid you not, I got a 16 ZX10R. My team told me I wasn't going to Lausitzring test when all the other teams were going. So I bought a super stocker, kitted it out. I had proper suspension, like internals and exhaust, and ECU was mapped and stuff. Went to Lausitzring, and I was as fast as the Yamaha guys and the Honda guys. And I got to the FP1 of the Superbike weekend, and I complained to Perry all weekend saying that this bike's a disaster. I wish I had my own bike here and stuff. So for me, training on a road bike is worse but motocross is completely different. So it's just brain training. So it's a hard one.
Very, very clear. Manuel, please.
Yes, Jonathan. I want to share with you because I think we went through the same up and downs during the lockdown. First euphoria, then depression, then hope, and so on. I think that we all went through these phases. I have 3 questions that are linked together. First, what did you think when you saw this strange championship? Short one, basically, we can say it's a Spanish World Championship, Then the second one is, aren't you curious to see how you will react when you get on the bike after such a long period without riding, probably the longest you have ever had since you are a professional rider? And third is about the championship approach. Such a special calendar short championship, you are the defender. You can't go too aggressive into the championship, I imagine.
Yeah, well, firstly, to go about the calendar, of course, I'm so happy to go racing. I mean, I think we've got confirmed now, 6 rounds maybe?
Yeah,
Like, optimistic to have more, but also we have to be realists that this virus is evolving every day and things are changing day by day. So we have to be open-minded. Of course, my mistake in race 1 in Phillip Island now is very crucial because I lost a lot of points. But I mean, I'm just happy that at least in this difficult moment, both the racetracks and Dorna are trying to make something happen. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't even like football that much, but I'm missing football on the TV. I'm just missing sport in general. So then about my approach, it has to be step by step. I mean, we understand in the last years, my experience, how to manage a championship, but it's more important just to be more consistent than ever. So of all the circuits in the calendar, okay, we don't have some of the best ones for me where I've made a huge difference. Like Imola, I've been very good in the past. Manicourt, Assen, Donington. So without that, let's see. I mean, I enjoy all circuits. I'm really excited about the Barcelona race because we tested it now, but we did a video shoot there in January and it was super cool. So yeah, I'm just happy to go racing, work with the guys again. And like I say, it's been a tough time, this lockdown, and because it puts everything in reality. And I just realized how much I was missing working with people, inside the paddock. Even, okay, I love my team and all the mechanics, but even the people you say hi to, the tire guys from Pirelli or the organizers, or it's just a nice big family. And I really missed that.
Giovanni.
Hello. I am here. You can hear me? It's okay?
Perfect.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the last World Championship. I think that it was the most difficult for you, and I wanted to know if it was always the best World Championship for you, or not, or you remember another World Championship better than the last year.
No, last year for sure. You're right. It was the most difficult by far because, I mean, Alvaro came in at like a steam train in the beginning, and I seen this guy like an animal, and he showed no weakness. So it was it was not very hard, but we just kept working in the same way, like a robot, just kept working. And then suddenly we seen not a lot, but we've seen the weaknesses of Alvaro and also Ducati, because, in the beginning with this super MotoGP engine, and we were thinking, how can we manage, but then we could see the difficulties they had in stopping, changing direction. And suddenly the package we had with the ZX-10R was quite good. So just kind of evolved, and it was the most difficult. But I remember my first championship a little bit more. It was, I think every rider is the same. You can have the best race win of your life, but you remember the first one, and it's the same with the championship. I remember the 15-year very good because it was like a huge pressure off my shoulders. Not pressure, but a huge,
Expectation?
just after relief. Relief's the word, After I won, I was like, super cool.
But
Jonathan, I just wanted to, I assume you watch MotoGP when you can, and I just wanted to ask you, Marc Marquez, you're the king of Superbike, Marc Marquez is the king of MotoGP, and he's one of those few riders where other riders are literally sort of go, you know what I mean? Riders don't generally kind of obviously be overawed when they see other riders, but other riders say, wow, he is just something super special. So what I want you to talk about is when you watch him, what do you see in the way that he rides a bike? What makes him special? What makes him what he is?
Well, I could talk for hours. He's certainly, his technical ability is incredible. What he can do with the bike when it's working, what he can do with the bike when it's not working right. I think it's clear in a lot of his championships that he hasn't had the best machine, like he hasn't had the best package, but he's still been able to win. And yeah, I think he's one of the best riders in the world. Probably you could call him one of the greatest. But for me, it's what Marc does off the bike that's even more special. How he manages situations. I've seen him. I've been what he does on the bike is special. And sometimes I think, well, how can you almost crash for like 20 meters and still catch the bike? But it's what he does off the bike. I've seen him from I've been with Marc close when we've rode motocross together. We've been in each other's company away from events, but sometimes I see him at events and there's so many people that want that little bit of attention. And he seems to have time for everybody. He's always smiling when you can tell that it's maybe the hardest moment for him to be at an event or an award ceremony. He's got that ability that I don't have. When I'm pissed off, you see it in my face, or when I don't want to be somewhere, it's hard to have the marketing smile, where he seems to be amazing in that area. So yeah, that's what I admire the most about him. But on the track, he's I'm happy I don't race with Marc, to be honest, because his ability to forget the limit and push boundaries is unbelievable. People tend to work in percentages, and it's very easy as a motorbike rider at a good level, and I say good level, riding in the World Championship. So any guys that get points or are classified, it's quite easy to arrive at that level. But to keep pushing, finding another 10th and 10th and 10th and 10th, and that's all confidence. And it seems like he has just an abundance of confidence. Where other riders, you see them, they reach the limit very quickly and they can't improve, and they have that mental block. Marc seems to have this ability just to keep going and keep going. And then in later years, he's had the maturity to understand, okay, I can do this in free practice 1 and 2 and 3, but in the race, I know the limits. And then he's been very clever to win the championships with margins.
It just to add to that question, he during the Michelin era, the sort of grip level is the window is always changing, and it seems to me that he has an ability to adapt more than anybody else, and to ride around the problems, and which goes back to what you were talking about motocross, that he rides motocross for that exact reason, because the track is changing every lap, so that forces him to not just ride around the same all the time, but constantly adapt the way he's riding. Yeah. Do you see him doing that?
Yeah, and I don't want to compare myself with Marc in this aspect, but I find myself, with my background in motocross, lots of guys can ride motocross, but to a good level, not many. But when you're riding at that intensity, you have to adapt. So sometimes that's my biggest flaw as a rider, but it's my biggest strength, because trying to develop a bike is very hard when you're constantly adapting yourself to get the best out of the bike. You arrive at the track and the chassis balance isn't right because it's too hard or too soft. Instead of coming in and saying to the crew chief, or the balance is too far forward or open or closed, whatever, you find yourself within laps understanding what this bike needs to go fast, and then just subconsciously you ride differently. And sometimes in recent years, I'm sure Marc has the same understanding with Santi, is Perry sometimes he says, you're not riding the bike properly. So he just changes it, because he understands that I'll understand what that bike requests to be ridden, and then I'll ride that way. There's some incredible riders out there, but they're so fixed in their riding style that it's impossible for them to improve, because they're always waiting for the bike to catch up to them. And when the bike catches up to them, they're not improving. Do you know what I mean? So that level, that what Marc has is incredibly special, and it sort of shortcuts and fast tracks your way to being fast over a weekend, because you don't spend all FP1, all FP2 learning the new front tire that they bring or the new rear tire. Within laps, you kind of understand how it requests to be ridden.
Jonathan, once I asked Danny Pedrosa the difference between Stoner and Marc, okay, because he had suffered both in the box, in the garage. And he explained me very simply, he said to me, it's very simple. Casey was racing for himself, just for himself, and Marc is racing against rivals. Okay, so where are you when you go out? Do you race different in function of the rider you have at this moment in front of you or behind, or you do just your own job?
It's a hard question because I think in the first years I rode for myself 100%. You know, when I first joined Kawasaki, I rode for myself. And then when you reach the world championship and you win a world championship, then you know there's my experience. You know, this is my experience. You find so many people for me were really happy for you in the beginning. You know, oh, this guy's, he deserves the world championship. He's worked hard on the past, blah blah blah. Anyway, more recently, less and less people are happy for you. So it becomes more about, you know, beating the others, you know, than doing it for yourself. Because once, I mean, my dream as a kid was just to win a world championship, one world championship. And my dream was in motocross. So I have 5 in road racing, but after one, it was like the dream was complete. So everything now is just coming from like a bonus. So of course I really enjoy the rivalries. I don't have to hate my rivals. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, there's some like guys like Top Rack, who's a very fierce rival. I've got a great respect for him. I really like him. But sometimes a lot of riders, you know, they say a lot of stupid things or disrespectful things sometimes towards me, and that's perfect because it's like petrol on a fire. And then you want to beat this guy even more. So I enjoy the rivalries, but now it's just, to be honest, I race for this feeling, right? When you cross the line and you win a race, it's incredible. But then this feeling goes away so fast, you know, because the slowing down lap, it's kind of okay, all the adrenaline's gone. But then you come back into Parc Ferme and you can see all the team so happy, your wife, your mechanics, the team manager, sponsors. It's like, then you feel even bigger because you feel like you've made so many other people happy. So that's where I get the most fulfillment from, is actually that feeling after winning the race and seeing everybody else so amped on the win.
But Jonathan, do you race different if you have, I don't know, Alvaro in front, or if you have any other? I mean, on the bike, do you think, okay, he rides this way, so I have to do this, or you just go by yourself?
No, generally no. But Alvaro last year was a different story because I don't know how many. He's like 50 kilos on this bloody Ducati last year. It was like a missile. So some races I just understood that I had to pass him. You know, like Rossi to Stoner in Laguna, this kind of thing. You know, you have to break the rhythm. And, you know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But in the end, every time he was on top of the podium, he was constantly looking at me second, just always being there. So I think in the end, this kind of game worked, that I had to do something. But the others, you know, Chaz has been a very good rival of mine over the past years, and he races very hard. And sometimes you have to race differently with him because he breaks so late that you can't always outbreak Chaz because you won't stay on the track. So you have to think how to manage Chaz in a different way on the track. Tom Sykes is quite similar, but then Marco Melandri, he was like different rider. Max Biaggi was a little bit more like Marco, like very fluid rider. So you could like do block passes on these guys in the corners to upset their rhythm. So I think different rivals have different, you understand their strengths and weaknesses, and you just have to adapt to that.
Thank you.
Giovanni, please.
Johnny, we have Kawasaki, Ducati, Honda, and Yamaha this year, and we have many strong riders on the grid. You, Scott Redding, Alvaro Bautista, and so on. But in many countries, Superbike is not so popular. Why, in your opinion?
Because MotoGP is more popular, and that's the pinnacle. You know, that's what the marketing's done with, and that's you know, it's a bigger show. It's got the best riders there for sure, and it's the big money paddock. You know, you only have to walk into the paddock, and it's like you're almost in a Formula One race. So some people like this, you know. But Superbike, and MotoGP has real heroes, like Marc. Before Marc was Valentino, was incredible. He was super charismatic, and he was the people's champion in Italy, and people loved him. People still love Valley. He's amazing. And Marc's the same. He's a hero to many young kids. In Superbike, since I can't remember, probably because before my era was foggy, so I don't really remember. But he seemed like the hero. Superbike was quite big, but there's been many incredible champions in Superbike, many great riders, but it's just different. Sometimes it's sad to see that, but because yeah, this is my world. Superbike's my world. So it would be nice if more people supported it, but it's how it is, and it's not.
But the rule is okay, in your opinion?
The what? Sorry.
The rule of Superbike is okay. The technical rule.
Rules. Yeah, I guess they've been constantly changing the rules since Dorna got involved, trying to find the balance, and I think they found a good balance. But now the manufacturers are just building super bikes, instead of having an R version, you have an RR or an RRR, and all these homologation specials now are hard, but it's what it is. I think 2010 I was in Superbike. It was an incredible year. There was BMW there as a factory. There was Yamaha, Alstar, Suzuki had Yoshimura support. Honda was the only one not there since the one make tire rule. When Pirelli came in 03, so I was with the 10 kit team there, but there were so many factories, Aprilia, Ducati still, and for years the factories have been going away, less and less support, less and less budget. But seems like in the past season, with HRC coming back, BMW again, really serious, of course Kawasaki, Yamaha, Ducati, it seems like the investment from the manufacturers now is going up again. So, and of course for this season, every manufacturer has a really good rider on board their bike, so it can give you this kind of real mix where there's many manufacturers in the front, and that's what MotoGP's got really good, because you see, of course you see every week the Yamahas, Ducatis, but now you've got two good riders in Suzuki. You've got Aleix doing incredible things on the Aprilia. The KTM, you see them, in the mixing at the front in some sessions. So you've always got good riders on every kind of bike. So it's really good for all the manufacturers.
Thank you, John. Marc, you have any question? Any other question?
Yeah. I just wanted to talk about the Suzuka 8 Hours a little bit. You've won it twice, once with Honda in 2012 and obviously last year with Kawasaki. And what you like about it, because obviously such a different thing to normal racing, and whether you like racing in the dark.
I love it because it's a really raw emotion, because you're racing with your whole team. Sometimes, I feel when I'm doing Superbike race, you sit on the grid and your mechanic leaves you and it's just you. Where in Japan, when your lights go off, you're not thinking for 40 minutes, you're thinking in 8 hours, and you've got your nutritionist, the factory guys are well treated. I've been on a couple of manufacturers now, and there's a physician there to make sure your temperature's good and you're not overheating and you're taking enough fluids. You've got nutritionists. I've got an assistant for Superbike, but you've never had so many people looking after like wet leathers or helmets. And then you've got pit stops, and they're so technical now, the pit stops. It's where races can be won and lost. But the race itself now, it's weird because you don't think of Suzuka when you're not there. If you're a journalist covering GPs, it's GPs or Superbike or Isle of Man TT, and you always hear Suzuka. But when you go there and you see, I have never seen a grandstand as full in my life. Then the whole way from the last chicane to turn one is full, completely full, and it's unbelievable the support they get. And the Japanese fans are so polite. But the race is so physical. Generally, I've raced most factory teams use 3 riders, but in the past, when I won in 12 and last year, it was 2 riders. So you do 4 stints for 1 hour, and it's like full gas. It's not an endurance race. It's as fast as you can go, and that's hard physically to recover from that effort to be good. You know, 2 years ago, I cramped up so bad that I didn't know how I was going to ride the bike for the last hour. So it's yeah, I love that race, but you know, during the first stint, I always think, why did I sign up to do this? Because it's like it's 35 degrees, but the humidity's stinking. So it's like the hottest. You think of asking a MotoGP guy to do 4 races at Sepang, but only giving them an hour off in between. It's tough. It's bloody tough. So,
if Kawasaki asked you to do Le Mans 24-hour or the Bordeaux, would you do it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not right now, but I'd love to do a 24-hour. It's on my bucket list. I think trying to manage that in a World Superbike season is a little bit too much. But now, with how Kawasaki's working it's kind of, in the past, it's been a Team Green Kawasaki Japan project. It's never been a full factory setup. And my team here in Europe, you know, Game being the team managers, integrated into that, and we've created a kind of, you know, like a pop-up team, if you like. And okay, it's not as it's not full factory team, but we have really good resources, great people. So I think because that's so interlinked, there's a kind of expectation that the Suzuka 8-hour now comes along with my World Superbike program. So I mean, I'm ready to go there this year. We've got a date in end of September, I think.
November, first weekend of November, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Will be a lot cooler. Will be a lot cooler.
Yeah, so that's going to be really weird because tire consumption will be different. Fuel consumption will be hugely different. We're going to drink a lot more fuel because in the heat, you're not obviously on the gas so much. And the engine's, you know, working a bit slower. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works.
Okay, Manuel.
I have my last question, Jonathan. It's about the Isle of Man. I don't know if you have raced there and your opinion, because it's a mix of opinions when I ask about the Isle of Man. Which is your position?
Okay, have you been to the Isle of Man?
Never.
Okay, this is I love it. You know, my first holidays as a child was there because my father was an Isle of Man TT rider. But so he's experienced because he rode at a good level at short circuit level. You know, he was a fast guy, but he was also an Isle of Man TT winner. And he told me that if I ever did the Isle of Man TT, that he would kick me out of the house. So I was always brought up with this fear that, okay, it's dangerous. But then in the second breath, he said, but you'll never get the same feeling riding a bike in any circuit in the world than the Isle of Man TT.
Look, I get goosebumps when you are talking.
Yes, he said it's the best feeling you can ever imagine. So I love it as a spectator because the atmosphere is incredible. It's like a festival. Think of like Glastonbury, but with motorbikes. You know, everybody's happy. The Manx people are really happy to have all these different foreigners come to the country. I've lived there for 8 years, so I love the spectacle. I really respect all the riders, but there's also an eeriness to it, and I think that's part of the appeal as well. So it's a strange one. Of course, I've been very close to a lot of these riders, and the worst thing you can have is a red flag, because then there's a lot of panic, a lot of stress, and you think, what happens? Then everybody needs to know what happened, and people start talking, and there's been fatalities, but these guys know what they sign up to. You know, nobody's putting a gun to their head, but it's the biggest spectacle in the world, so it's a pretty cool event.
Sorry, Johnny. I've been doing the commentary for road races since 2002 in Italy. I just want to understand from a rider like you, circuit rider, what's the difference? Did you understand what's the difference between your mind and your father's mind and all the others road racers' mind? I mean, is it true that they don't think or they can't think to what they left at home because that most of them have wives, have sons? I mean, what's the difference between your minds?
It's a good question. Because I don't think about, when I put my helmet on, I don't think about my family. I don't think about the grass isn't cut at home. I don't think about what's for dinner. So, and we've seen a lot of, not a lot, we have seen fatalities in circuit racing too. So there's the risk is a lot more in street racing because there's not nice gravel traps, but it's the same mentality. I think the calculated risk is different. Okay, I don't want to put myself in that position because I understand I still make a lot of mistakes as a short circuit rider or a circuit rider, but I think the biggest difference is opportunity. I'm sure if you asked all these 16-year-old road racers, hey, do you want a 125? Do you want 200,000 euros in racing the Spanish Championship? Do you want? They'll be like, yeah, of course, but it's not an option for these guys. And where I grew up in street racing or like street racing in Northern Ireland, it's king. You know, you'll have 9 sponsors out of 10 that will buy you a 600cc motorcycle to race in the Northwest 200 or the Isle of Man TT. Maybe one guy will buy you a 600 to go and race in the British Championship. Yep. So it's about opportunity. And then these guys start, they obviously have the same adrenaline buzz that my father had, and then it's addictive. You know, Matt will understand, it's obviously, it's like I have, and you want to do it more and more and more, and you fall in love with it. So it's, I think it's about just opportunity. There's a lot more opportunity growing up where I grew up to go and do road racing than there is to go and ride in CEV or to make it as a world in the World Championship, because that's just a pipe dream. It's very unrealistic. You know, guys like me or, for example, Eugene Laverty, we've been very, very lucky in our opportunities. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
Thank you so much. Giovanni, your last question, please.
Yes, I have a last question. Many fans dream to see race in the same weekend, MotoGP World Championship and Superbike World Championship. What do you think about this possibility?
Like together or in different races?
Yes, different races, but in the same weekend.
Oh, that would be incredible. You know, I sort of had that dream to that maybe this coronavirus, Dorna we could do it together. But then, of course, I don't know how many staff that the MotoGP has, but I think we're going to be 1,500 with Superbike in the next races, so it would be almost impossible. But that would be cool. But GP is so noisy. When we test with the GP guys, it's impossible to concentrate inside the garage with the GP bikes going. But then you just have all the comparisons, you know, and it's the tire problems, the advertising. But I mean, in the dream, it would be perfect because it would be really. But what would be even better would be, which I think would be a dream motorsport event for me, would be the Superbike of Nations, like Motocross of Nations. Nice. But each country picks their 3 top guys, and they put them on production-based Superbikes, or one on a MotoGP, one on Superbike, and one on Moto2, and you have to make like a Motocross of Nations style event. This would be incredible. Yeah, maybe the FIM should do this, and I can be the organizer in a few years.
It's a good idea.
There used to be something in the late 70s, I think, you know, something like this. It was
transatlantic match races were a little bit like that.
Yeah, it was very nice. Jonathan, before letting you, we had a long chat with Carlo Fiorani in this lockdown, and I was really hit by when he was talking about you, about that 2014, and he was still so sorrowful, so sad about the fact that he couldn't give you the bike you asked for. I mean, he's still so tied to you, no? He talk to you often, he said, and of course you can be, you don't have any regrets about leaving Honda to go to Kawasaki, because with Kawasaki, you entered in the history, and I don't mean to be rude in any way to Kawasaki, but what do you think about that 2014? You were expecting something from Honda, and Carlo wanted to give it to you, but when he had to tell you, sorry, we don't have the bike you need, Johnny.
No, you know, in Honda, the people I worked with were incredible, because it was all Honda Europe people. I mean, HRC and Honda Japan, they didn't give a shit about Superbike. You know, they gave them some money to go racing, Honda Europe, and we did a bloody good job, because effectively it was a private team run by the Tinkate cousins, Garrett and Ronald. And they had a lot of really good engineers there, a lot now in MotoGP. So, you know, I'm a little bit, you know, if I could turn back time and kind of like wake Honda up and tell them, hey, what you did with Alvaro and Leon Haslam in 2020, you know, that would have been cool if we did it back then. But I think, you know, I have great relationships with you guys like Carlo and Robert Waterston, who was also at Honda Europe, was, you know, great friends of mine now. But so it was actually really sad to leave, because it was such a good, we had such a good thing, but just, I think it took all these years now for Honda to be beaten, that now they're taking it serious with Alvaro and Leon. So it's a good thing, but I mean, I wouldn't change the world. I think it really prepared me for the Kawasaki. So when I arrived at KRT, I was ready to win, and they had a bike that was ready to win, and it was perfect marriage, really.
Thank you very much. The sliding doors, no, Johnny? Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a great pleasure listening to you, Johnny. Best of everything for this season. Keep doing your best as usual. Thank you so much. Also to Matt Oxley, to Manuel Pesino, and Giovanni Zamani. See you next week for another episode of GP Roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Good luck.
Grazie.